Hey, we're cooking with gas here on the Jewcast.
Okay, careful using a phrase like that.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries of a sham.
Tradition!
Oh, shut up, Carl! Shut your goddamn Jew mouth! You people are why there's war in the Middle East!
Gekackt von Jan.
Nebbig.
Verpoepoepoe.
Vermischt.
Verkackt.
Vertutzt.
Verstonken.
Farted.
Exactly.
You're what Grammy Hall would call a real Jew.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Episode 100 of American
Mazel
Jew.
tov! Wow, I can't believe we've done 100 episodes. It's pretty exciting. I'm pretty proud of all the content that we've created and everybody that we've spoken with and all the subject matter that we've covered over these 100 episodes.
And, the irony of what we talk about on a lot of these shows is not lost on us today, considering, it is sort of celebratory that we've reached 100 episodes, but it's also Holocaust Remembrance Day. So, balance.
Yes. Today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It's commemorating 76 years since the liberation of Auschwitz. So it's a bit of a somber day. Definitely want to, honor all the people that lost, the 11 million people that died. 6 million of them were Jews, of course. And, it was a horrible moment in history, and it's sad. We've talked about it, how Holocaust education is low in America and Holocaust denial is high, and hopefully we could shift those and change them, switch them around, make Holocaust knowledge high and denial low.
I'm encouraged by the fact that we always talk about the never forget, but I'm always encouraged by the amount of real heartfelt and reflection and positive sentiments that come out of the never forgetting. These ways that we connect with each other and connect with other people in other Jews in the diaspora, essentially, as we remember. Not just the atrocities that happened, but remember our resilience as a people and the things that connect us more than the things that divide us. I mean, I think we're at a strange place in America's history right now as well. Like, this is a time for a lot of us to come together, and I think looking back at some of the hardships that we've had to endure, and especially given the ways that you have to combat evil and division and hatred, that all that stuff is binding us more, I think.
Absolutely, we got to stop the cycles of hate that take place within humanity, and we have to figure out how we could put our differences aside and really come together, no matter what your religion or race is, and have a better, prosperous future for everybody. And I think that's why it's so important that we have Holocaust education to make sure people know what humans are capable of when bigotry and hatred takes over. And, we want to make sure it never happens again, not only to Jewish people, but to anybody.
I watched some of the videos on the United States Memorial website for the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. I don't know if you watched any of those videos. We've talked about having gone to that museum in the past. Like I went there when I was in high school. I know you've been to some of the concentration camps. Like you went to Auschwitz, right?
Yeah, 16 years ago. I can't believe it's so long ago. I went on the March of the Living, and we went to Auschwitz. It was, a very interesting experience to be there. Where I think it was 1.1 million people were murdered at Auschwitz alone. To see the gate, to see, work will set you free, to see ovens where people were burned and graves and the barbed wire and these horrible bunkers and piles of shoes and just so much that, breaks your heart. But also, it's so hard for me to hear people say, "Oh, it never happened," because it did happen. I was at the place where it happened, and I saw it myself. Yeah. And it's really despicable when to have Holocaust deniers, and I really hate it. And I'm grateful that I had that experience, and I was able to go there and see that, and march with I think we were 6,000 Jews when we marched from Auschwitz. And it was an incredible moment. And I encourage, everyone to go and see firsthand, the concentration camp and be able to share that experience with other people. And especially, with anyone that denies the atrocities that happened.
For sure. I think that's sort of the, having gone to that museum and, I feel like when they make it so much more personal, they make it so specific and, you're talking about individual lives lost versus the bigger picture of the 6 million, it's much more powerful.
No, for sure, because people just want to be, it's not just a Jewish thing. There were homosexuals, mentally and physically disabled people, Russians, Romas, people, Polish people. There were people that they weren't Jewish, but they were married to Jews and they wouldn't get divorced and they were killed. So it's a lot of people were murdered. Jewish people always want to say 6 million, 6 million, 6 million Jews, but I think it is good and I think it is important to make sure that we mention the other 5 million people that were murdered. And yeah. I don't think we should always be like 6 million Jews were murdered. I think we should say 11 million people were murdered, 6 million of which were Jews. And, this is hard because we're recording our 100th episode. It's kind of celebratory, but, it is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we definitely want to honor that. And, usually we try to, put some jokes and be funny, but, now it's not the time to be funny and make jokes about, of course, the Holocaust. We've talked about and the whole world saw that idiot at the Capitol building that was, wearing the Camp Auschwitz t-shirt. At a lot of these other rallies, people have been wearing shirts 6MNE, which stands for 6 million not enough. And, there's this hatred that exists towards the Jewish people. For some reason, it's very sad. We've talked about it too much on this podcast, but not as much as there is. And we gotta find a way to reach these people. I know a lot of people just want to dismiss them and just say like, oh, they're crazy or they're sick. But I still feel like they could be reached, and the way to do it isn't through hating them and cursing them out, but to try to change their minds through love and understanding. As cheesy and as corny as it sounds, we're never going to get through to people, by dismissing them and talking down to them.
And I think a lot of this stuff goes much deeper than just the denial of the Holocaust. I mean, there's all this anti-Semitism that's on the rise that's really hard to figure out how to combat it, because there's all these different conspiracy theories, and there's always blame placed on the Jews when you get to these conspiracy theories.
Absolutely. We've talked about that with QAnon, and we've talked about it with other conspiracy theories, the Elders of the Protocols of Zion, and yeah, a lot of these conspiracy theories are rooted in anti-Semitism. They involve the Rothschilds controlling the whole world, or George Soros, controlling the media, and it's not good. It has to end. It has to stop, and we have to be able to separate individuals from their religion.
I mean, that's always a big issue. I mean, we talk about that a lot in relation to what's happening in Israel. That they're trying to include anti-Israel sentiments as being anti-Semitic now in their definition of anti-Semitism, which thankfully I'm seeing most of a lot of people are not adopting that.
We were talking about that the other weekend. We have to draw the difference because, there is some anti-Israel sentiment that is anti-Semitic, but not all anti-Israel sentiment is anti-Semitic. And that's a very important distinction that has to be made because, crying anti-Semitism for everything does not help the Jewish people at all.
Well, I'm reading about, there's a symposium happening at Northwestern University where they're really pushing the idea that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And right. That's the basis for sort of combating a lot of the anti-Israeli sentiments that are happening. I mean, the other thing that's been happening this week is that, Biden reversed.
Well, first of all, Biden, spoke about International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which was nice. And of course, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but no. As a segue to our next topic, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, he reversed some of the policies that Trump had put in place to stop giving aid to efforts to have Palestine be a viable state. He's pushing a two-state solution. Whether or not that will be something that actually occurs is something that nobody's known forever. I don't see how it.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation, but I think what Biden did is good. I'm very happy that he did it. I'm very happy that he is opening up a channel of communication with the Palestinian people, that he wants Palestinians and Israel to come together, and he's interested in peace. He's not like Trump did, just totally ignoring the Palestinians. Of course, he's giving back humanitarian aid. He's hoping for a better future for the Palestinian people. He does want the two-state solution. And I want it too. It's a little. I'm not sure what the people want. There's so much anger and so much hatred and so much frustration and so much fear. I don't know if people will ever be able to get past all of that. So these are some good steps because Trump, we had no relations with Palestine. So now we're having relations again. The world has changed. The world has evolved. Like, hopefully, this conflict can come to an end. But, I don't know, I make some videos often and speak out on, in support of,
I watched your video. I'm surprised at how much backlash you seem to have gotten from that video about this issue. And we've talked about this on here a lot. The biggest issue is that there are factions on both sides who don't see any real solution beyond a total destruction of the other side. Like a one-state solution is the only solution, and that means destroying the other side. There are factions on both sides that have that opinion.
Absolutely. There are people that in Israel that think the land was never Palestinians' land. There is no Palestine. There never was. There never should be. That all Palestinians are members of Hamas, or they're all terrorists, which totally is 100% false. But then there are Palestinian people that want to keep keep saying from the river to the sea, and they want to just wipe out Israel. And neither side is helping the cause, and they're both just causing more violence and blood. And it's really awful. And, I understand that these people are frustrated, and I don't know exactly what it's like, of course, to live under constant fear of a terrorist attack or, live in an occupied territory. But I do know that what has been happening and what is happening isn't helping anybody. And, both sides are going to have to make some concessions if we're going to move forward to a peaceful resolution. And I think, there should be an Israel and there should be a Palestine. And I think a two-state solution is the only way.
Yeah, it's hard to see what it's hard to see what the solution might be. I mean, it's easy for us as Americans to be sitting over here with these opinions, watching from such a distance. And even if we know people who are there, it is hard to have too informed of an opinion when we're not in the thick of it. People that are living in those situations seem to have a much holier than thou type of opinion about a lot of that stuff. Like, well, you don't live here, so you don't even know. Like, you're not even part of this argument. Like, oh, all right.
No, for sure. I mean, okay, I can understand where they're coming from, but it doesn't mean that we can't spread awareness. We can't have opinions. We can't try to, be a spark for change in the region, because they're doing a disservice when they do that, when they want to say, oh, you're Americans. Oh, the Indians, they want to bring up other things that happened. The past is over. It's done. We want a better future. Yes, Israel did some shady things. There's plenty of Palestinians who did some not nice things to Israeli people. Both people have lost lives, enough lives, and we have to find a way to make peace. And, it's kind of weird we're talking about this on Holocaust Remembrance Day, because there are a lot of people that will compare what's happening between Israel and Palestine to the Holocaust. I think it's a bad equivalency. I think it's not a true one, but they want to compare it. And Israel, the Jewish people are the bad guys, in that situation, in that scenario. And, even though I don't, the Holocaust, 11 million people were murdered, that was its own thing. And, we shouldn't be like comparing anything bad to the Holocaust. We've spoken about this before, but still, we have to say, hey, if this horrible things happen, we lived through this, how could we help how could Jews help the Palestinian people to not suffer and to have more of a sense of, their own country, have a sense of security, have a sense of self, of being Palestinians. Yeah. And I think it's one of the biggest mitzvahs Jews could do right now. And, we don't have to give back all of the land. The whole from the river to the sea has to stop. People have to stop saying that, because all people do when Palestinians say from the river to the sea, it just makes Israelis scared. It makes them afraid that they want to wipe them all out. And it's just going to have increased security, increased regulations for Palestinians. That's going to make, the Israeli army be harder on them. And those aren't things we want. So I understand so many Palestinians are upset, frustrated, are sick of what happened. They haven't seen any change. They've heard the UN talk. They've heard U.S. presidents in the past talk. But clinging on to what's happened in the past, again, I'm sorry, I sound like a broken record. Yeah, but it doesn't help anybody.
That's why I found it so striking to see some of the comments on your TikTok video. How is there such a backlash to be like, we want peace? No peace. What? How is that?
People still want revenge. They want vengeance, and that's got to stop. That's got to end. It's a shame what has happened. Whether it's the Nakba, when the Palestinians were forced from their land, whether it's terrorist attacks or as the Israelis want to call them, or whatever, suicide bombing, or any death from Israelis by Palestinians or Hamas or whoever. Blood has been shed on both sides. So how do we move forward? So Israel is definitely going to have to, give back some of the annexed land. I understand where Israel's coming from, and they want to say, hey, we made all these arrangements with the Palestinian people, to have their own, and they, to have their own state, and they didn't want it. They never took it. They were too separate. It wasn't good enough. They attacked us. We won that land in fighting them. We got it. Now it's ours. I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happened. It's who won this one. Yeah. The objective is peace.
It turns out
if Israel has to give back some of the occupied territory in the West Bank to Palestine to facilitate that peace, I think they should do it. I think they need to do it. I think they should want to do it.
It turns out you're not the only one that sounds like a broken record. There's a lot of repetition of the same talking points coming out of the Middle East there. So I don't know. I'm hopeful that we get to a place where the biggest argument that we are having is about King Kong and Godzilla. That's where we should get to as a people.
For sure, that would be a much better argument. I guess I'm on King Kong. I don't know, but nevertheless, Biden, the administration just announced some things. They're small. They're not going to make change tomorrow, but I hope that they are the first steps in what's going to happen in bringing all these Middle Eastern countries that now we have made these quote unquote peace agreements with, to get them all together and figure out how we could stop this conflict, how we could achieve peace in the region. It's crazy because we're all sons of Abraham. Yeah. We're cousins, and we're fighting, and it's just I'm a Semite, you're a Semite. We were here first, you were there first. Who cares? I don't care who was there first. Who's there now? Right. Who is there now? And how could we stop the horrible lives that a lot of Palestinians are living? I'm sorry, the Palestinians are living. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the freedom to go wherever they want. They don't have so many things that we in America definitely take for granted, and I think people in Israel, might as well. And I think, Israel needs to keep that in mind a little bit more. Israel's in a booming country. It's doing amazing things, amazing military, amazing scientists. Palestine doesn't have anything. They have nothing. and we're taking more and more of their land. The little bit that they have, I shouldn't say we, but the little bit that we have, Israel wants to take. So, I'm hoping Biden makes this like somewhat of a priority, because Trump just totally dismissed it. He didn't care. It was just all about Israel. And, I don't, Biden, I think he's keeping the U.S. embassy in Jerusalem. They recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. They want that to be the capital of Palestine too. I don't know. That might be something that some Palestinians might have to give up. It has to be a give and take, and everyone's got to remember that. And it kills me to see these people that responding on the videos that I make and just want to say no, hatred from both sides.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's both sides, and that's the thing. We talk about this all the time, but I really think that the biggest problem and this is not even just an Israeli-Palestinian problem, but I think it's a problem that we're having across the globe right now. We're not listening to the other side's problems. We're not listening to what their issues are. I think, we have to come together and have seats at the table where we actually listen to what the other side's concerns are before we start getting into a fight about stuff. And, people just don't understand what the key issues are sometimes because we're not listening to the other side. We need to be better at educating people about what some of these issues are. And I'll say this, I think this is actually a perfect segue for our guest today, because our guest today is the one and only Dante Nero, who is maybe one of the most learned people I know. Like, he knows more about Judaism than I do in a lot of cases. Like, there are many topics that he has gone out of his way to research on his own to find out, so that he's not defenseless in any of those arguments. Like, he has a good I think that he is a good example of somebody that when he doesn't know a lot about a subject that he wants to learn more about, he goes out and he finds the experts that he can talk to about it, has an informed opinion.
Yeah, Dante is a hilarious comedian. He's a very talented actor. He's an incredible podcaster, but he's also been a great friend to me. And
to me as well.
I'm so grateful to know him, to have him in my life, and we wanted to get somebody a little special on the podcast for the 100th episode, and I'm thrilled that we got Dante.
Pretty psyched. Let's get him in here.
Super psyched to have our guest today, Dante Nero. What's up, Dante?
What's going on, Dante? It's good to see you, bro. And I see, look at that little guy we got there with us today.
Hello.
Hello, little fella.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you as our guest for our 100th show.
Here's what's crazy. When you ask, Jonathan, I'm like, with you, I'm, like, just call me, whatever. You know what I'm saying? We got that kind of relationship. It's like, just hit me up. So when you said you wanted me to do the podcast, I didn't know about your podcast. I didn't even know you were doing a podcast. And I was like, yeah, for you, absolutely, right? And the only other guy that I probably would have said the same thing is this knucklehead right here. I didn't even know he was on the podcast with me.
Yep, just me and Jordan.
A couple American Jews just knocking around.
Awesome.
So that's Jordan's my boy. I love that dude.
Well, it's funny too.
We love you.
When Jonathan said that you were going to be our guest for the 100th episode, I was like, that is perfect. Yeah. I feel like Dante knows more about Judaism than me. I was just saying that, I feel like you're the type of guy that, like, you just know a lot about a lot of different stuff. Like, you have a lot of knowledge because you always, you've talked about this on your show a lot about how when you find that there's something that you want to know that you don't know enough about, you do a deep dive into that shit.
It's almost, it seems like a good thing, but it's actually it's my neurosis. Like, I can't. So
that's a good neurosis to have.
Because so I had a friend that worked with me for like 20 years in the phone company. And whenever he figured it out. We worked together for 20 years. He figured it out. If he wanted to know something, all he had to do was ask me. And then if I didn't know it, right, then it would be stuck in my head. Like, I don't know it. And then I would, like, 2 days, I go a deep dive. I'm Googling and this. I got charts and graphs. And then I come back to him and tell him, oh, remember that thing he's already forgot about it. He doesn't even give a fuck. And I'm driving, I'm researching how Brontosaurus Rex fuck. You know what I mean? So it's more of a
very
neurosis.
Slowly.
Yeah, it's a neurosis more than anything else. So
Well,
I know you're a little bit about Judaism. I remember one of your jokes where you actually talk Hebrew.
Yeah.
And hilarious, you know, and you're like, you know how many Jewish girls I had to fuck to get them hilarious joke.
Yeah, Janice Massetti translated that for me.
Nice.
So wait, how did you pick that Hebrew phrase?
Well, because when I wrote the joke is about how I look Jewish, which is absurd, right? And then I use like things that black people do that Jews, you know, I did the comparison thing, right? So I say sometimes I grow my sideburns long and curly, right? And then I go, sometimes I wear my do-rag 5 sizes too small, right? So, you know, you're making this comparison of the two. And then I just thought it would be dope if I become the Jewish guy, the rabbi in the story, and speak Hebrew to myself. And I wrote the joke. It says, hi, I'm Jewish. Are you Jewish? He goes, do I look Jewish? Right? It asks, do I look Jewish? And then I answer, maybe, I don't know, maybe on my father's side. Like, I didn't know, you know.
Right. Very funny. Yeah. So you told Janice Massetti, like, what you wanted to say.
What I wanted to say, and then she translated it for me, and then she worked with me for the pronunciation.
Wow, that's like Dante's bar mitzvah lessons, by the way.
Hilarious.
Like, you have to practice. He's like, just tell me the fucking Hebrew.
Working on a ha-ha of Torah.
Yeah, why do you think people mistake you for being Jewish?
No, the joke was that it's absurd that they would never do that.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's the other side of the joke. It's just the absurdness because they never do.
It is very Jewish to answer a question with a question.
Yeah.
Are you Jewish? Do I look Jewish?
I went to did I go? I think I went to Passover. Somebody Upa took me to Passover.
Okay.
Oh, hey, Upa.
Yeah, I wore a yarmulke and the whole shit. And her mom does real gefilte fish.
Oh, like, it's good. I like the real gefilte fish.
She stuffs it and like everything. She don't do the store bought. And I had the latkes and the pickled string beans and the latkes was good. And I ate the whole thing. They went through the whole prayer thing, and they're Russian Jews, so they were doing shots of ice cold vodka, like just out of the fridge. They pull a bottle of vodka. But I went. She took me.
I mean, you grew up in Brooklyn. You grew up in Crown Heights, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a pretty big Jewish population. I mean, there was the Crown Heights riots back in the day.
Yeah, right. It was the whole Limerick Nelson thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like riots and everything, and they had this is where they get the story plan for every dance movie.
Yeah.
Like we need to go meet at the youth center to stop the gangs, man. We'll dance it out, whatever. So they had meetings and community.
The Jews will do the horror to get it all done.
And it was a whole big thing. It was a big thing.
Wait, and there were Jews involved with this riot?
What happened was this Jewish guy ran over this kid, right? Hit this kid. And the kid was pinned under the car. The guy who ran him over was pretty much fine. Maybe he had a bump on his head or something, right? And the Jews have their own ambulance system over there, right? Yeah. So they came, and the kid was pinned under the car, and the Jewish ambulance took the Jewish guy instead of taking the black guy who was pinned under the car, and the kid ended up dying.
Oh my goodness, horrible! And
then there was this whole riot thing about for like this was like 90s, Jordan. Something
I think it was the early 90s.
A huge thing, man. It was like riots and protests, and
it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess against the Jews. I mean, I guess did that.
I mean, the black community and the Jewish community were fighting with each other. There was there was some retaliatory violence at the beginning before it became a riot. It was like,
that seems like that's exactly what like conservatives want.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Black people and Jews fighting against each other.
It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous because if anybody understands my plight, you do. Do you know what I mean?
Right?
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
That's the thing.
That's one of the things we talk about on this show a lot, about how, the fact that there's so many white supremacists out there that want to take out black people and Jewish people. Like, we have a lot of the same enemies.
Sure. But let's be honest. Nobody don't like blacks and likes Jews. You know what I mean? Or likes Jews and don't like.
Yeah. Well, but there is.
You don't like one, you don't like either.
Right. They hate us both.
But there are people in the Black Lives Matter movement that don't want Jewish people on their side. Like, there's, saying this is not your fight because,
I think that's more of the fact that they're trying to. They don't want they don't want it to get co-opted. So
right.
One of the things that I say is always interesting. It's like, you remember the chick who had the woman who had the let her dog off the leash, and then she got on the phone. She's, he's coming at me. Right. So one of the things that I say about that lady is, if she had not been caught on camera, right? Mm-hmm. She's a lady who would be at the Black Lives Matter march. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, she would be a chick who's an ally. But giving an opportunity to exercise power in a situation where she knew she could because he was a black man and because she was a white woman, right? She did. And what you find, what I think is interesting about that is most people when they get power, especially people who feel powerless, when they get power, they have a real heavy hand about justice and stuff because they become abusive. There's no balance. So I think that's the nature of people in general. And so when you have a situation where you're at an adverse condition, adverse against black or white, and you have if you know that you have a card that you could pull that one-ups you, think, and how many humans wouldn't? How many humans would say, I can get one up on you, but I'm not? That's not really, that speaks to the righteousness of people. Mm-hmm. More so than what your nationality is. I mean, there's certain dudes that snitch and certain dudes that don't. But that's not everybody. Everybody's not built with that kind of fortitude, and so I think it gets lost. The humanity gets lost.
Yeah.
Just the basic fundamental humanity. I understand that there are plenty black friends of mine, and I know that if they were in power, they go bonkers. It's kind of a human nature thing more than anything else,
Okay, so you think they just feel like this is their fight and they don't want Jews involved because they feel like
you got to understand, it's always been co-opted. Like, if you think about it, any one of the fights it's been co-opted at some point in time. Like, what happens is this becomes about equality, and then it becomes about the trans community, and then what I mean? It's like, on a base level, what black people want is the same thing that we've wanted since the inception of this country. It's never even come close to that.
Right.
And so we've had situations where they were allies, and then people kind of took it in a different direction. If you think about it, the civil rights movement moved forward, which helped the women's rights movement move forward. It got co-opted. And we still are in a situation where they're still killing people in the streets. There's a thing that I talk about, like, when you talk about police brutality, why I think it's culture. Like, there's a culture to be able to kill black people over white people, right? Mm-hmm. And the culture is, so both of y'all have been to LA before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in LA, you do not jaywalk, right? Not only because and so there's a culture of not jaywalking.
I jaywalk, and when I walk across, I go, New York, motherfucker!
A friend of mine got a jaywalking ticket in Pasadena.
Right. So
here's $75.
here's my thing. So you have a law you enforce the law. There's a consequence to the law, right? And because there's a consequence to the law, people don't do it. But even further than that, if you jaywalk and there's people at the corner, the people look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a social pressure to not jaywalk, along with the fact that there's a consequence if you get caught, right?
Right.
And so people just don't do it. In New York, we jaywalk. If somebody says stop jaywalking, you would curse them out in the street. You'd be like, what the fuck are you talking? If somebody tries to give you a jaywalking ticket, you go, oh, you going to play that game? Like, not did you jaywalk? With, this is how it's going down? So
I almost get angry at people that refuse to jaywalk. Like, that's a minute of your day you're never going to get back.
Absolutely. So what I'm saying is, but there's a culture of jaywalking here. There's a culture, so nobody gives a fuck. There's no social pressure if you do. No, as long as you don't end up slowing us down. That's all we give a fuck about. So what I'm saying is, in order for in LA it to be a serious thing and become culture, first there had to be consequence. Then once there was consequence, a culture around not jaywalking happened. So what I'm saying is, if there's always been a culture of killing black men with impunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You create a culture of that. The only way you change it is that there has to be a consequence. And even after there's a consequence, when cops get locked up, when they serve a murder charge or a manslaughter charge, if they lose their job and lose their pension, then there's a consequence. Then it'll stop. Then it won't be an accepted order of things. Then the culture will change.
Right.
But if you think about how even with the George Floyd thing and the Black Lives Matter and all this stuff, how many motherfuckers died after George Floyd?
Yeah.
So in my estimation, we're looking at 3 more years of absurd police brutality.
Well,
at least 3 years.
At least 3 years. Because the cops they're getting kicked out of the force.
Right.
They are losing their pensions. Like
right.
They are starting to have more and more repercussion for their actions, but it hasn't spread like I guess we want it to. Where
it takes time because
using their power.
Think how long it would take for us in New York to never jaywalk again.
It would never happen.
That will never happen.
Sure it would. If they were hitting motherfuckers with $115 tickets every time you did it, you wouldn't do it. There would
be only hit black guys up with that.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying.
I'm just joking.
Here's what I'm saying.
But it's true. It's true.
Everybody, if you change the culture, but there has to be a consequence, and they're not real. I mean, you got guys losing jobs and losing their pension and getting fired and stuff, and a lot of times they're ending up working at another precinct anyway. So they
get a security job, or they,
or they get back just as a sheriff or a deputy someplace else. So. There's consequence. There's starting to be consequence. But I'm saying even if the consequence stays the way it is, where it doesn't grow, you're still talking about 3 years of people losing their jobs before people go, hey, I don't want to shoot a black dude.
I mean, you would think at some point they would want to have more Jews on their side as an alliance just so they could have access to better lawyers.
No, well, absolutely. But then, then that's the point is, then the question is, that was really racist because you think Jewish lawyers are better than black lawyers. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's an implicit bias.
I mean, it was a joke I was making. I was trying to be.
I know.
No, but I guess it's still like, I would think we should be on the same side. We should be backing each other up. And it's sad when that doesn't happen. Even in the Jewish community, black Jews aren't accepted as easily as other people, and it's sad. It's horrible. I mean, I know the Jewish communities are starting to try to be more aware of it and work on it.
But even that's a culture that's in place. Mm-hmm. And how long has that culture been in place that we don't accept black Jews the same way we accept white Jews or
well, forever. That's the way it's been with
always been
with black people.
So think about how long it's going to take to just change that in just the microcosm of Jewish communities.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And especially when you're talking about, it's like the program is not still happening. You still got the brainwashing going in. And you're still trying to fight it off. It's like people always say, like I remember everybody was freaking out because Black Panther made so much money. But the only reason why Black Panther made money was because it was the first time black people could see themselves in a superhero. Like white kids wake up, you grow up with Spider-Man and Superman and Mr. Marvel and Shazam, but there was no black. Well,
I've always joked that a lot of the superheroes are somewhat Jewish anyway. Spider-Man, Batman, Superman.
Yeah,
but also,
I don't like it that when they have African American superheroes, like a lot of them, they have to have black in the name. Black Panther.
Well, that was the way. But here's the thing: even with Black Panther, initially in 1966, when they drew the comic, he had a cowl, like his mouth was out, but you could see that he was black. So they changed it, and that's why it became a full hood. So, but my point is, even in the context of representation in comic books, if this is a consideration, imagine how this belief system that blacks are genetically inferior is hitting you from so many different directions, even from the comic books.
Right.
The image I remember when I was a kid.
No, that's the systemic racism that everybody's upset about and talking about, and that's
exactly,
thank God, Biden got rid of the 1776 commission because that was some other bullshit that was trying to propagate this kind of thinking.
Absolutely.
That we're hoping to evolve past and grow past as human beings, but for some reason we are anchored to our mistakes from the past.
Well,
I mean, also a lot of those.
I think there's a lot of it. I think there has to be an acknowledgement. I mean, I think one of the things about why I think Germany has even been able to move on as a country was because there was reasonable acceptance of what they did. They weren't still denying it. I mean, we're still talking about today. Tucker Carlson says there's no white supremacy. People are saying on national TV, slavery wasn't that bad. Why are you so mad? We freed you. I mean, the insanity of that is so that somebody would really say that in the context of I'm being serious. They really think that. They really think that Democrats are drinking the blood of babies. This is really what's going down.
No, this misinformation is a problem, and that's why a lot of people are upset about free speech with these social media companies taking people off, but it's gone beyond free speech because it's become manipulating the public for people's own agenda, and it's spreading all the bad things that shouldn't be, that we want to get rid of as a society. You know?
Right. But that's the thing. When you say that, everybody doesn't want to get rid of it.
That's the sad part.
I mean, and let's be
honest,
honest,
the country that wants it back.
70 million people want it back. At this point, if you're still supporting that, considering everything, with sexism, homophobia, racism, whatever, on every level, just even civility and humanity and the environment, if you're still supporting that, right, then I know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I can't act like I don't know who you are. It's one thing if your political views are in your head and I don't know it, then I can, at least I can overlook it or maybe not even get into that trap. But if you say you support that man, that orange motherfucker, I know who you are. I know that you don't give a fuck about me.
Right.
It's true. You care about the money in your pockets more than the well-being of the planet, of humanity.
And you have no level of ethics that you won't cross to have what you want to have. It really is to that point.
Yep.
Grab me by the pussy wasn't enough. That wasn't
enough. It's just locker talk, they say, They have excuses for everything. But thankfully, we got Biden now. I think he's been doing some amazing things, especially making the climate and the environment a priority, which is a no-brainer, and using it as a springboard for not only jobs, but to propel the country to be at the forefront of clean energy, which is the future. It's true. It's the liberals and progressive people. We want to evolve. We want the future, and there are all these people clinging to the past, and all we've done is fuck up things in the past.
But you gotta understand that they've chosen racism. This is an honest choice for that. So what they're saying, I think what they know that the writing is on the wall. You know, Latinos are growing up in population, and that, you know, the white male is going to not be the majority. And so what they're saying is, I'm going to put my stake my claim on. So maybe it'll take, because it's just going to keep falling apart. It's going to just be the racists. Just the racists in the party.
Right.
It's already, people are leaving it. You see all these people leaving. So they're making a choice about racism, and they know that it's dwindling, but they're going, Mitch McConnell, like, look, I'll rock with this for 2 more terms. I'm already 70 years old. I'll be rich till, you know what I'm saying? They can roll me in this motherfucker in a wheelchair. I can act like they'll tell me what way to vote. You know what I'm saying? I could do this for the rest of my life. Then they just have a dude that passed away, was 92 years old in Congress.
Yeah.
Multi-millionaire, passing money on investments. So they're going, man, I'm 70. If they're going, I'm betting that racism won't be done in 10 years.
Right.
They're like, I'll take that bet.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think the only way racism will really end is if, like, aliens invade and then the humans unite against the aliens, because there's something in our biological makeup that makes us want to, like, hate each other for some reason.
Yeah, we pull together to hate a different group.
Yeah, but you ever go to a foreign country and then you run into somebody who speaks English, like you're in France or Italy, and and it's like you instantly have this camaraderie. You just love each other. Now this is a dude who you wouldn't hang out with if I paid you, but you're in France. And all you have in common is you're both from the U.S. So there's something to us wanting to come together. And then when we have more, you know, I think as there's more people, right, we start to spread out into these groups.
Right.
You know, it's funny, like, what was the fucking that physics term? Osmosis.
Right.
Things of lesser quality go into a degree of larger quality. So things spread out. So the population is so big, it creates these groups. If we're all, like, you know, when you look at Walking Dead, like, these motherfuckers are not really cared about what either's background is, you know? Right. Because there's a camaraderie there. What happens now is there's so much disparity that there's no camaraderie.
Right.
Dante, wrapping up, we like to ask all our guests a couple questions.
Okay.
So, I mean, usually they're Jewish, so
okay.
They're Jewish related, but do you have a Jewish holiday that you think's more interesting than the others? Or
I like Purim.
Purim.
Yeah.
Yeah, why?
Because y'all get to dress up and fucking it's dope. Like, I like the story.
Okay, Purim is a great one. I don't think anyone has said Purim in the 100 episodes that we've done. How about a Jewish food? Do you have a favorite?
Can I say pastrami?
Kosher of course. Pastrami? I mean, me and Dante have hit up Katz's. We've hit up pastrami queen.
and I go hardcore. Like, I do celery soda, Jordan.
Two of them.
I do 2 celery soda. I go in hard.
Nice.
Only sour pickles. I go only sour.
Only sour. Okay.
Do you have a favorite Jew? Historical, biblical, in pop culture, or somebody you've met in your life, whatever?
I want to say, I used to be really into, like 20s organized crime and shit.
Okay, so like
Lansky.
Yeah, Meyer Lansky.
I liked Meyer Lansky. Like, that was you know, it was. So, you know, if you know, I mean, not that you don't know, but the gangsters, Jewish gangsters,
yeah,
they were ruthless. But what they did was they took the money and they sent their kids to school,
yeah,
so that they could get out where the Italians kept. There was always an element of organized crime in that, you know. Mm-hmm. So there was some that went to school, but a lot of them wanted to be part of the mob, and so when you first learn about gangsters, you learn about all the Italian gangsters, right? And then I just thought it was when I was like, oh, this is a Jewish gangster, and I read up about him and stuff like that and that's how I found out that, the Jews were the first gangsters.
Murder Inc., baby.
Yeah, they were the first gangsters.
Years ago, there was a restaurant on the Lower East Side called Lansky's.
Yeah.
There's a book.
Dante, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show.
Hold on, before we do that, I just want to say that there's a great book I read many years ago called Tough Jews. That's all about those early Jewish gangsters. And like the Abe Rella's, there's a movie called Murder Inc. based on it was like a bunch of assassins, basically Jewish assassins. They would send them to they would kill people that in towns that nobody knew them, and come back to New York. There's a movie with Peter Falk actually plays one of the Jewish gangsters in Murder Inc.
Cool.
But the book Tough Jews
actually right now I'm reading about the Greek Holocaust by the Turks.
Okay. Yeah, some of the stuff is really interesting stuff.
Yeah, because it's interesting to think that was going on at different places at different times and that not to even know that. Yeah, it's just crazy. So.
Yeah, it's sad that we don't know so much of oppression that people are facing around the world that, we take our lives for granted and we complain about anti-Semitism or these things happening when people are being, put in camps or, murdered or kidnapped and raped, all these horrible things that are happening.
There's an Armenian Holocaust going on right now. And then, and then you have Ibu in Africa and it's just, and that's the thing. It's like, to not understand our own humanity. Yeah. When it's like we're all doing the same shit. I've never met a dude that takes a shit and faces the tank. Never.
Yes, you're right. That would be. I'm going to try that tonight.
It actually would be really cool because you got a desk, you can write jokes, you can
right. My new workstation.
Eat a sandwich, right?
I'm going to start counting my bathroom as an office on my tax returns.
That's hilarious,
man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you enough for coming on the show. I
love you, man.
Can't thank you enough personally for being in my life and all the friendship that you've offered me. You're the best. Dante's an hilarious comedian, an amazing podcaster, a fantastic actor. Is there anything you want to plug, Dante?
Yeah, my podcast is Man School 202. It's a relationship podcast. It's about getting your balls back, and I'm hoping I can get some testimonials from you guys.
Yeah. I think I think I left a review. Oh, I left a review when it was back when it was Bates Phillip.
Yeah.
So I'll get on there. I'll
all right. I appreciate
definitely throw some 5 stars your way.
I appreciate it.
Can't wait to come back and be in the Pimp Cup.
Yeah, we'll do that. I mean, I can't wait. I'm sitting here by myself. We've been doing it by Zoom since the COVID. So
I know.
Anyway, I love you guys, man.
You're the best, Dante. Make sure to check out Dante across social media at Dante Nero, right?
Dante Nero, the Dante Nero, some version of that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love you, buddy. Great to see you.
All right, bro. Later.
See ya. Oh, my God. So amazing having Dante on for our 100th episode.
Love Dante. Love you, Jordan. So happy to have done 100 episodes with you.
Back at you. I'm pretty excited. I can't believe it's really great. And, thank you guys for listening for 100 episodes. We love you.
There are people that we know are listening out there that are liking the social media posts, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate the people that left us reviews on iTunes. If you haven't, we hope you'll do that. We hope you'll sign up for our Patreon page. Of course, we're American Jew on pretty much everything, and you can find me on everything at Jonathan Randall.
You can find me on Instagram at BeatNickNudnik, and thank you guys so much. This has been a hell of a ride of 100 episodes, and we can't wait to deliver 100 more. L'chaim.